Marcus Williams had learned that life's heaviest burdens often came disguised as ordinary Tuesday nights. As he pushed his mop cart through the gleaming corridors of Pinnacle Financial Tower at 2:17 a.m., the weight of his 8-year-old daughter's medical bills pressed against his chest like a stone. The silence of the 34th floor was broken only by the gentle swish of his mop and the distant hum of the city that never truly slept below. He'd been working these graveyard shifts for 3 years now, ever since Sarah's diagnosis, acute lymphoblastic leukemia, words that had shattered his world like glass, leaving him to pick up the pieces while maintaining the facade that everything would be okay. During the day, he was Daddy, the man who made pancakes shaped like butterflies and read bedtime stories with different voices for every character. At night, he became invisible, a ghost in navy blue coveralls who ensured that corporate America woke up to spotless floors and sanitized surfaces. The Japanese businessman had been coming to the office for 2 weeks now, always alone, always after midnight. Marcus had noticed him immediately, and not because he was different, but because he carried the same shadow that Marcus recognized in his own reflection. The man would sit in the corner office, staring out at the city lights, his expensive suit wrinkled from long hours, his shoulders bearing an invisible weight. Tonight was different. As Marcus approached the executive wing, he could hear something that made him pause. Quiet sobbing, the kind that comes from a place so deep that even the strongest walls cannot contain it. The sound was coming from the corner office where the Japanese man sat. Marcus hesitated. 3 years of night shift work had taught him the unspoken rule: be invisible, do your job, go home. But something about the sound, raw, human, desperately alone, called to a part of him that transcended job descriptions and social barriers. He knocked gently on the glass door. The man looked up, startled, quickly wiping his eyes. He was younger than Marcus had initially thought, perhaps in his early 40s, with kind eyes that held oceans of worry. "I'm sorry," the man said in accented English. "I didn't know anyone was here." "Don't apologize," Marcus replied softly. Then, drawing from memories of his college years when he'd studied international business with dreams that seemed like someone else's life now, he switched to Japanese. "Deijiring booty suka, are you okay?" The man's eyes widened in surprise, and for a moment, the corporate mask slipped entirely. "Anita wa hango ohanas masuka?" "You speak Japanese, Sakashi," Marcus replied. "A little." "Gakuzai no toki ni benkiering shimashita. I studied it when I was a student." The mana who Marcus would later learn was Hiroshi Tanaka, CEO of a major Tokyo-based corporation, stared at him as if he'd just witnessed a miracle. In his home country, he was known for his stoic leadership and unwavering composure. But here, in a foreign country, dealing with his company's near bankruptcy and his own father's terminal illness back in Japan, he had never felt more alone. "I haven't heard my native language spoken with such kindness in months," Hiroshi said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Everyone here speaks business Japanese, formal, cold, but you sound like home." Marcus set down his mop and, forgetting every rule about professional boundaries, sat in the chair across from Hiroshi's desk. "Kokoro ga itai desu ka?" "Does your heart hurt?" The question, asked with such gentle directness, broke something open in Hiroshi. The tears came again, but this time he didn't hide them. In halting English mixed with Japanese, he told Marcus about his father's pancreatic cancer, about the business his family had built over generations now crumbling due to market pressures, about the impossible choice between staying in America to save the company or returning to Japan to say goodbye to his dying father. Marcus listened without judgment, his own struggles temporarily set aside. When Hiroshi finished, Marcus shared his own story about Sarah, about the medical bills that grew faster than his ability to pay them, about the fear that kept him awake even during the few hours he should have been sleeping. "We're both fighting battles no one can see," Marcus said in English, then added in Japanese, "Demo, Hitori janai." But we're not alone. What happened next would be talked about in corporate circles for years to come, though the full story would never be known to most. Hiroshi, moved by this janitor's unexpected kindness and wisdom, made a phone call that night, then another, and another. By morning, Hiroshi had restructured his entire approach to the business crisis. Instead of the hostile takeover his American partners had planned, he proposed a merger based on the principles of mutual support and shared prosperity, concepts that Marcus had reminded him were at the heart of his family's business philosophy. But Hiroshi did something else that night that would change Marcus's life forever. He made inquiries about experimental treatments for pediatric leukemia, leveraging his international business connections to find options that weren't available through conventional channels. He also quietly arranged for his company's American subsidiary to offer Marcus a position in their international relations department, a job that would use his language skills and provide the health insurance Sarah desperately needed. The transformation didn't happen overnight. 3 months later, Marcus walked through the same corridors of Pinnacle Financial Tower, but this time wearing a suit instead of coveralls, carrying a briefcase instead of a mop. His new role involved facilitating communications between Japanese investors and American companies, building bridges between cultures through understanding and empathy. Sarah's treatments were progressing well, her laughter returning to fill their small apartment. The little girl who had once asked why Daddy looked so sad all the time now greeted him each evening with stories about her day and plans for their weekend adventures. Hiroshi had returned to Japan to spend his father's final months with him, but he and Marcus maintained their friendship across the ocean. They would video call weekly, sharing updates about their families and their work. Hiroshi's company had not only survived the crisis but thrived under his renewed leadership philosophy of compassionate capitalism. The night cleaning crew at Pinnacle Financial Tower had a new janitor, now a young man named David who was working his way through nursing school. Marcus made sure to introduce himself on David's first night, offering the same kindness that had once changed his own life. "Remember," Marcus told him, "everyone in this building is fighting a battle you can't see. Sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do is simply acknowledge their humanity." 1 year after that pivotal Tuesday night, Marcus received an unexpected visitor at his office. Hiroshi had flown in for a business meeting, but he'd come to see Marcus first. The two men embraced like the brothers they had become. "I never thanked you properly," Hiroshi said, "for saving my life that night." Marcus shook his head. "You saved mine, too." They stood at the window of Marcus's officia, the same view that Hiroshi had stared at in despair just 12 months earlier. The city sprawled below them, millions of people living their own struggles and triumphs, most of them invisible to each other. "Do you think," Hiroshi asked, "that what happened to us was fate?" Marcus considered the question, thinking about all the small moments that had led to that encounter: his decision to study Japanese in college, his need for night work, his choice to knock on the door instead of walking past. "I think," he said finally, "that kindness creates its own destiny." That evening, Marcus arrived home to find Sarah at the kitchen table, working on a school project about heroes. She looked up as he walked in, her eyes bright with health and happiness. "Dad, I have to write about someone who's a hero but doesn't wear a cape. Can I write about you?" Marcus knelt beside her chair, remembering all the nights he'd felt powerless, all the moments he'd questioned whether he was enough for her, whether love alone could overcome the mountains they faced. "What makes someone a hero, sweetheart?" Sarah thought for a moment, her 8-year-old wisdom cutting straight to the heart of things the way children's often does. "I think heroes are people who help others even when they're scared or sad themselves. Like how you helped Mr. Hiroshi even though you were worried about me." Marcus had never told her the details of that night, but somehow she understood. Children, he realized, had a way of seeing the connections that adults missed. As he tucked Sarah into bed that night, she asked him to tell her the story again about the night he met Mr. Hiroshi, about how two strangers became family, about how one moment of choosing kindness over indifference had changed everything. "The best part," Sarah said sleepily, "is that you were both heroes that night. You saved each other." Outside, the city hummed with its endless energy, full of people working late shifts and fighting invisible battles. Somewhere in those towers of glass and steel, perhaps another moment of unexpected grace was waiting to unfold, a reminder that in a world that often felt cold and disconnected, the simple act of seeing each other as humanity could still work miracles. Marcus smiled as he turned off Sarah's light, grateful for the Tuesday night that had taught him that sometimes, The most extraordinary transformations begin with the most ordinary acts of human kindness. In the morning, he would return to his work of building bridges between worlds, carrying with him the knowledge that every Nia from CEOs to janitors was fighting battles that mattered, and that sometimes, all it took was one person brave enough to knock on the door and ask, "Are you okay?"